Transpiration and factors affecting it. Why does transpiration occur? How do factors such as light, temperature, humidity and air movement affect transpiration? So, what is the role of transpiration? So, transpiration is the evaporation of water vapour through the stomata, and it is a necessary evil because the plant needs to open its stomata in order to get carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, but at the same time it also loses water, and it needs a large surface area of the leaves in order to absorb enough light for photosynthesis, but that large surface area also means there's more area over which water can be lost. So transpiration brings water to the leaves, but it is the osmotic processes that actually achieve this. So less than 1% of the water moved through the plant by transpiration is actually used by the plant. So what is the point in moving it? Well, it is basically the transport system of the plant. So although it might not use that much of the water, it does need the mineral ions, the sugars and the hormones that are moved around and carried by the plant by the transpiration pull. Although sugars move through the phloem, it does use some of the osmotic systems from the xylem and from the water. So factors affecting rate of transpiration. So first of all, light. So obviously a plant can't photosynthesize in the dark, and therefore there's no point in opening its stomata in the dark. However, the more light it is, the more carbon dioxide that plant will need for photosynthesis. So the more light there is, the more likely it's going to open its stomata, therefore the more loss of water, therefore the higher the rate of transpiration. So the increased light intensity increases the rate of transpiration. Next one is temperature. So temperature changes affect two factors. They affect how much water the air can hold, and therefore the water potential of the air, and also the speed that the water molecules move. So as you increase the temperature, it increases the kinetic energy and speed and movement of the water molecules, which increases the rate of evaporation. So water evaporates more rapidly, so the rate of transpiration increases. Another thing, as you increase the temperature, you actually decrease the amount of water that the air can hold, so it decreases its water potential. So both of these factors lead to an increased rate of transpiration. Next one is humidity. So the number of water molecules in the air is the humidity of the air, which affects the water potential gradient between the air outside and inside the leaf. So when the air is outside the leaf, there is high humidity, and the gradient is reduced and the rate of transpiration is much lower. On the other hand, if you have low humidity on the outside, you're going to increase the rate of transpiration. So this is quite a good summary diagram. So factors such as humidity, temperature, light intensity all affect the rate of transpiration. Air movement. So as water diffuses through the stomata, it accumulates around the stomata. So therefore the water potential around the stomata increases, which reduces its water potential gradient between the moist air spaces in the leaf and the drier area outside. So transpiration is therefore reduced. So any movement of air around the leaf disperses the humid layer at the leaf surface and decreases the water potential of the air. This increases the water potential gradient and the rate of transpiration. So the faster the air movement, the more rapidly the humid air is removed, and therefore the greater the rate of transpiration. So where does the energy for transpiration come from? Well, evaporation of water from the leaves depends on light, temperature, humidity and air movement, and these are directly or indirectly the result of the sun's energy. So it is the sun's energy that drives transpiration. So for the plant itself, it is a passive process. Right, how can we measure the rate of transpiration? Well, what we can do is we can use something called a pedometer. So to set this up, what you have to do is cut a chute under the water to prevent air from entering the xylem. And then you have to cut it at a slant to increase the surface area available for water uptake. You then put the pedometer under the water and insert the chute with the apparatus still under the water so you can't get any air entering. You then remove the apparatus from the water but keep the end of the capillary tube submerged in a beaker of water. Then you check that the apparatus is watertight and airtight. So then you would dry the leaves and allow time for the chute to acclimatise and then shut the tap. You remove the end from the capillary tube from the beaker of water until one air bubble has formed. Then you put the end of the tube back into the water. And then you record the starting position of the air bubble, start a stopwatch and record the distance moved by the bubble per unit time, e.g. per 5 minutes. The rate of air bubble movement is an estimate of the transpiration rate. So you can only change one variable at a time. So if you're measuring the effect of temperature, you would increase temperature and then you would measure the distance the bubble moves in a certain amount of time, e.g. over 5 minutes, at each temperature. And then you'd have to do a whole separate experiment to measure the effect of light intensity. And you'd move it further away from a bulb, for example, and at each, like say 10 centimetres, you'd have to measure how much it moves over 10 minutes, over 5 minutes, and then at the next one, how much it moves over 5 minutes. So, you usually as well put Vaseline on the stem here to stop any air entering. So it's really important that it's airtight. So you would start the bubble here. You've got a water reservoir to fill it up so that you can get the bubble back to here. Then, say if you were measuring temperature, you'd put maybe 20 degrees C. Put the plant in 20 degrees C, and then you'd start the stop clock and then find the distance moved over, say, 5 minutes. And then obviously to find the speed, you do distance over time. So you do, say it moved 5 centimetres over 5 minutes, you just do 5 over 5, which would be centimetres per minute, etc. So that is the factors affecting transpiration.